Hello, this is Michael from League of Items, and I'd like to give a huge shout out to Fnatic for winning the EULCS Spring Split. When I started making videos a few months ago, I was hopeful that someday my ideas would eventually impact professional play, but I had no idea it would happen so fast. And I can say with 100% certainty that Fnatic has incorporated some of my ideas into their process because about a month ago, Dylan Falco contacted me and let me know he watched my videos and loved the ideas. And this was huge for me because it gave me the confidence to keep making videos. You never know who's watching, but I stuck with making videos, and he reached out, and now they're using some of my ideas. It makes me feel great knowing that I can have an impact on that kind of level. So after he reached out to me, I made another video explaining what I thought was the best going into playoffs because I knew the patch that they were going to be playing on. And I understand that League of Legends is a very complex game with hundreds of variables, but Fnatic has now realized that there is an advantage to be gained from understanding items better than their enemies, and this series is the perfect example. If we take a look at pick ban from Game 1, Fnatic grabs Karma, which hasn't been a power pick over the past few weeks, meaning they had a different reason for choosing the champion. Now, picking it into Rise, obviously it's not like Karma's going to stomp him in the laning phase and just take over the game. That's not what Karma does. She's more teamfight oriented and needs to be a supportive champion even though you're giving her a lot of gold. So you need to use that gold effectively so that you can help your AD carry. So when Fnatic locked in their final two champions, they knew it was Rise and Jinx, and it would be difficult but not impossible to win late game teamfights because of the items. One option would have been to choose a champion like Cassiopeia, but they chose Karma instead because of the huge gold efficiency she provides for her team. In a previous video, I've explained to Fnatic that the best possible 2-item spike is most likely Seraph's Embrace with Rabadon's Death Cap because they both have tremendous gold efficiency and give you exactly what you're looking for in the mid lane. It is a little bit defensive, Seraph's Embrace, because in order to get full value from the item, you need to use the active effectively. So obviously the first thing that comes to mind is by using it defensively, but you can use it offensively as well. The thing about items though is you need to be efficient with how you're spending your gold because it can allow you to make a huge comeback. And this is exactly what happened in Game 1. The pivotal point in Game 1 happened at the 28-minute mark when Karma and Tristana both have 3 completed items. This lets Fnatic know what their own power level is. They might not necessarily know how strong the enemy team is, but you have a rough idea even if you're losing. So the scoreboard shows that they're down 7-4 in kills, and as viewers, we know that they're down closer to 4,000 gold in gold earned, which isn't necessarily indicative of which team is stronger, depending on how you spend your gold. But G2 also has a dragon advantage. So we can say with some amount of certainty that G2 thought they were stronger. After a poor engage from Jankos, Tristana chunks him for 50% of his health, forcing Jankos to use his ultimate in order to escape, and it leaves the rest of his entire team vulnerable. Hjarnan dies because he doesn't have flash, which, sure, is he out of position? Maybe, but you need to be able to capitalize on that kind of mistake, which you can only do if you're close enough in terms of strength, which is actually directly related to items. I'm not sure why I was going to say indirectly. If we look at Zack's items, we see that he barely has any armor. He does have Ninja Tabby, but that's not enough against Tristana with 3 items. And in order for him to be an effective tank, he needs to use his large health pool. But he also has a Spectre's Cowl. I'm not sure why he has that. If he had like a Randuin's Omen, he may have been able to survive a little bit better. Maybe the engage doesn't go as poorly. But this pivotal fight allows Fnatic to take an Infernal Dragon, which immediately means Fnatic has the Dragon advantage because an Infernal is worth more than the Ocean and Wind, or Air, whatever it is, that G2 has. They also get 2 towers mid lane, and they decrease the gold earned deficit to 2,000 gold. But I'm pretty sure that if I did a closer analysis of the items, they were already ahead in terms of efficiency. But that's maybe better in a different video. It's also important to remember that G2 made mistakes outside of their items, but making those mistakes is more easily avoidable if you have a deeper understanding of how strong your team is, which you need to have item information and know how to build to make sure that you're not making huge mistakes. What's even more interesting is that in game 2, G2 decides to take Karma away from Fnatic. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh, maybe Fnatic also knows about Seraphs into Rabadons into Ardent Censer because it's a great build, and I wouldn't be surprised. But you get into the game, and you see that instead of going for Seraphs and Rabadons, Perkz rushes an Ardent Censer. An Athene's Unholy Grail, which is flat out just worse than Ardent Censer. It's just worse. Like I've shown it in other videos. I don't really want to take the time to go through it again here, but it's mind-blowing that they can make this kind of decision, because all you're doing is limiting her upside in team fights and in lane. Like, she can be a decent champion in lane, but you go Ardent Censer and you just take all of her strength away from her. And then in game 3, they take her away again because they don't want Fnatic to have her, but this time they put her in as support. And I've shown before that, for the most part, supports don't have a huge impact in terms of items, because both teams have the same options for support items unless they go a damage support like Zyra. But yeah, so then if we take a look at the rest of the builds on their teams, we can see several things that I've touched on over the past couple of months. In the top lane, they used Banner correctly, which I was ahead of that. They also built a Randuin's Omen because Jinx was ahead in game 1, which is super smart because you're taking away so much of her damage by doing that. Then in the jungle, they used Zeke's in every single game. And I've been talking about Zeke's on junglers for 2 months. It was even pre-Warmog's nerf. And it just shows that back then, it still would have been more powerful. It would have been even better back then, but teams didn't know about it yet. In the mid lane, Fnatic used Seraphs and Deathcap very well, and incorporated Ardent Censer, which caused G2 to pick her away in games 2 and 3 with disastrous results because they had no idea what they were doing with her. And then finally on their AD carries, they went Static Shiv into Infinity Edge while on Tristana, and Essence Reaver, Static, and IE on Sivir. And again, like, understanding how those 3 items work with one another is very important, because Sivir needs those 3 items specifically to spike. Now, professional teams often think about the 3-item spike instead of the 2-item spike. Personally, I think the 2-item spike is more important. But in a game where you're losing, if you can stall out and be relatively close, but at the 2-item threshold or the 3-item threshold, then you're going to put your team in a situation where, as long as they play to their win conditions, they have a shot. So to wrap up this video, again, I'd like to thank Dylan for reaching out to me. Ever since his time with Immortals, he's been one of my favorite coaches because he's consistently looking for innovative ways to create a competitive edge and is continuously challenging himself to stay in front of the meta, which is exactly what you need from a coach. Thanks for watching.